Coogs House, the Houston Cougars enter a new year and a new conference in basketball very, very soon. But we got to talk about what they just wrapped up and how great things are going for the basketball program, as well as new faces heading to football.
You are Locked On Coogs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Coogs, daily podcast about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach, Parker Ainsworth, here to break down all things Cougs. If you're a U of H fan or just a hater who can't stop by, please be sure to subscribe down below. That way you can get on Cougs in your newsfeed each and every day. Appreciate you making Locked On Cougs your first listen of the day. If you found us on YouTube, welcome back. It is so good to see you again. Remember to hit subscribe. We're doing a giveaway every 250 subscribers, and we're so close to 2,000. We're at about the almost 1,900 mark. Hit subscribe, helps get there. Like, comment on the video, let us know you're in the contest. If you don't know what to say after this, because I don't believe Ryan Monso on Twitter, tell us in the comments if you've ever eaten a Pop-Tart before. All right, so a couple things to break into here. We've got like a football, basketball split here. We're going to start with basketball first. Talk about the last basketball game against Penn, then talk about like the lasting effect of that one and how long Houston could be out without J1 Roberts. And then last but not least, I want to talk some about the football program, bringing in some guys for visits very soon. They're in the transfer portal, kind of what to be on the lookout for as far as if those guys were to commit to the University of Houston, what kind of athlete they are at a surface level, and then kind of see how they fit into scheme and stuff, obviously, if they commit. So it's a fun episode bouncing back and forth between a bunch of different things. But first, we do need to talk about the Houston Cougar men's basketball program being undefeated 13-0 and 4-0 in quad one victories. That means 4 different times Houston's lined up against the top quadrant of difficult opponents based on either location or talent or a combination of both. And 4 times they've won those basketball games. Houston played Penn, and it was not one of those quad one games on December 30th. If you follow on social media, obviously you're following that I was occupied with my own coaching of basketball and missed that one live, but watched over the course of a couple days in parts and took some diligent notes and had to say there were some impressive things to take away from that one. Obviously, the score itself, Houston wins 81-42 at the very surface level. That 42, maybe like, oh man, Houston allowed someone to get over 40. That doesn't happen all that often. Except then you realize that they actually hit 42 because they hit a shot at the very end of the game. Otherwise, it would have been just like when they held Texas State to 37 or Rice to 39, or I guess they opened up with Louisiana Monroe. They held to 31. Would have been another one of those kinds of games. Houston's holding teams under 45 with regularity, including when they beat Montana 79-44 in the, what was that? That was coming off the heels of Charleston, right? Houston's defense showed out in this one, is what I'm trying to get at here, right? Forced 22 turnovers, and the monster double team traps in the corners and on the posts were just too much to handle. 14 of those turnovers were steals, and they only allowed 14 made field goals in this game. Houston had as many steals as they had allowed made field goals. Just ridiculous. Now, Houston shoots out in this game into a 14-0 lead when Clark Slackert is spelled not like Slackert would sound, but like Slackert is spelled. Clark Slackert went down hurt in this game with an ankle injury for Penn. You remember the preview episode I did the other day? I mentioned that, like, I think Penn is a worthy opponent, and I do think that in this basketball game, Houston's dominance is going to kind of overlook or mask how Penn is going to be a respectable basketball team this year in the Ivy League, and the winner of the Ivy League we've seen a couple years now has a chance to make noise in the NCAA tournament's first weekend. And again, like, Penn is as good as any of those teams, but Slackert going down early. Houston was already at 14-0. Penn was spinning. They didn't know what to do. He's their floor general court leader guy. He's the head of the snake for them in a lot of ways, right? Now, he was in over his head. Jamal Shead and LJ Cryer were dancing circles around him on both ends. I don't mean to say that he was like keeping them in it by any stretch. It was done 14-0, and Slackert was not playing particularly well. But when they beat Villanova this season, or in their first half where they were competitive with Kentucky earlier this season, he was the driving force and factor in that. And if they were going to make any kind of a competitive comeback in this basketball game, it was going to be because Slackert was leading the way, and he went out hurt. Now, it didn't hurt Houston, no pun intended, that Spinoso, their facilitating big man, also got into foul trouble early. That kind of limited his effectiveness. But Houston also had a great game plan for him. So it's not like it was just the referees and fouls may stretch. Houston forced Spinoso, again, the facilitator of the Penn offense, into 7 turnovers and just 1 assist, kind of the opposite of what the ratio would be for most of his games this season. But Houston really got after him early and flustered him with their monstering of the post, right? Doubling from the side. They'd pull someone from the backside to help double things, force ball out of his hands. And frankly, Houston's rotations were so quick that forcing the ball out of his hands actually forced it into Houston's hands, again, 7 different times. Really impressive coverage in the way they covered up the post and masked the post there. And if you're looking for clips as to what Houston's going to do when they play those dominating bigs or some of them like very talented bigs in the Big 12, like the Hunter Dickinsons of the world at Kansas or whatever, that's the tape, that's the play, that's the game plan. Let's go see how they monstered the post, forced the ball out of his hand, and played the passing lanes in the rotations after the fact, the scramble drill kind of stuff after that, right? Now, if you look at how they did it against him, obviously, yes, Dickinson is better, right? Dessou at Texas is better, right? They're better posts in the Big 12 than Nick Spinoso. But the game plan is, I think, the same kind of thought process, same kind of things they're going to do. And for what it's worth, while it might not force 7 turnovers and only 1 assist out of other bigs, we'll just keep using Hunter Dickinson as an example. What it will still be flustering high-end pressure, because Houston's got one of the most ball-dominant, ball-pressure defenses in America, and he might force up a few questionable jump shots because they're more of a scoring big, or they might have to defer out of him, or he might not throw a turnover himself, but he forces to a bad spot and the other guy gets a turnover because they're stuck in a bad spot, they have a shot clock or whatever, right? Like those kinds of actions will come out of this over the course of the game. So I think that's important to take away. In this game, Cryer had 16, Shead had 14, Sharp had 12. And so you can look at the 3 of those guys as like all 3 of your guards to start the game had double-digit points. They all shot relatively effectively. No one was like fuego hot, crazy, right? LJ Cryer did break the 1,000 points in his college career mark in this game. However, I think the interesting thing to me is that they all shot an efficient percentage, got to double digits, and played that smothering rotational defense we're talking about on the other end of the floor for the duration of their all in the high 20s. I guess Cryer hit 30 minutes of this basketball game, right? They had fairly similar stat lines across the board, all of them. And I think it was interesting in comparing their stat lines. They were all 2 of 3 from 3, right? Cryer and Shead both had 4 assists, where Sharp had more rebound. Like they each contributed to this game in very equal ways, in a way that dominated the backcourt in that way. Houston was up 33-12 at the under 4 timeout in the first half. Just utter domination of this basketball game. And I like run out of metaphors or run out of symbols to use on this game. But I think it's interesting that Houston was actually without, I'd argue, one of their best couple of players, if not certainly the best front court player in Jawan Roberts. Now, we know Jawan went down with an injury, kind of like aggravated a quad that's connected to the knee that was already bugging him in the Texas State game. I want to talk about that injury and more about what that could mean for Houston in the long term in the second segment. But first, part of the reason he's so important is that he's a great add to the team, a great player on the roster. If you're trying to add great players to your roster, it is the start of the new year, and every small business owner is asking themselves the exact same question: what is one move that can take my business to the next level in 2024? LinkedIn Jobs knows your success all depends on the team you surround yourself with. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has created the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. If you can find a Juwan Roberts or a guy that comes off the bench like JoJo Tuger, go find them. LinkedIn isn't just another job board, it has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. It's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, so Houston played this game without Juwan Roberts, their best front court player by my standards for the last couple of years, frankly. I guess I think of Jarris as a perimeter guy, and he was only here for 1 year, but you feel the impact of Juwan this year has been outstanding, tremendous, and they didn't have him in this blowout win. How they do it? Well, first, JoJo Tuger made the start, and JoJo Tuger played impactful minutes in this game. Energy was palpable. I always love watching him play. And frankly, I comment on that on Twitter and stuff a lot when I see him play, that like the volume dial on energy just turns up when he gets in the basketball game. Tuger played 21 minutes in this game, had an offensive rating of 148, the second highest on the entire roster, because he's constantly tipping putbacks, tipping rebounds out, getting deflections that lead to fast breaks. He's so involved in so many things happening. He had 13 points in this game. I, off the top of my head, think it's a career high for him in his freshman season thus far. But all of that says probably not the most impressive thing to me about this game. In his radio show on Tuesday, Kelvin Sampson said, something to the effect of like, in Australia, they played some of those games or scrimmages or whatever, had like a 12 foul out. Like just no one was going to, and Tuger pushed the limits and fouled out of those games in the summertime, right? In the Penn game, while covering the best player, especially the best healthy player for sure, on the opposing side, Tuger went the entire first half without fouling. Tuger played tremendous defense and legal defense the entire time. I don't think you can stress enough how much growth and maturity that shows out of the young freshman, that when, hey, we're down another forward, we need you in the game, you can't get in trouble. He plays clean sheet defense. He's, again, big guys get fouls because they're at the rim. They're just in the way sometimes, and they're trying to defend last minute. And he was always playing clean, still getting in there, still deflecting shots, still altering shots. Really impressive out of Tuger. He and Javier Francis, Javier Francis being the starting center in this basketball game. Francis, should point out, also played 20 minutes, also had 6 points, had his own handful of rebounds, a couple big blocks. I thought it was interesting that when they put those two guys in the game, guys that the offense doesn't typically go through. Tugler's kind of a garbage man on offense, like roll man kind of stuff at best so far this year. Francis has kind of been he's just the fifth scoring option of the starting five. It's a very talented Houston Cougar basketball program and basketball team, right? But at the start of this game, and frankly, again at the start of the second half, Houston was very intentional in starting their offense through those guys, getting them involved early, especially with Roberts out of the game. Because Roberts, you'd understand, he's a facilitator, he's a scorer, he's got a mean left hook, not a boxing left hook, like a left hook shot hook, right? But you'd anticipate Houston doing that with Roberts. With Roberts out, Houston still went after it with the bigs at Espinoso, got him in foul at Nick Spinoso. I gotta say, my Twitter was autocorrecting it to Espinoso, and then around my house we were joking that it was Espinoso. It's Nick Spinoso. I'm sorry, Nick. But they went at him early. They used their size, they used their length, and frankly, they kind of like were very, very quick to get those guys involved, and then you saw their energy turned up for the rest of the game. J1 is he's the best of the three, so I'm not saying they don't need him back or anything like that, but they showed against Penn that they can play without him. Houston has essentially a week between they have a week between games, right? They play West Virginia to open up Big 12 play on January 6th, Saturdays, the afternoon game, right? Now, this is where I might get controversial here, but we know that Juwan had been dealing with lingering knee issues in the same leg for, it sounds like, a couple weeks. He'd had it drained and stuff like that, right? They won't put official names on it, but he's playing with it. And it's kind of thing where, like, I like to say, I don't really grade stuff in the middle, but it's 60% or 57%. No, it's like, if you're healthy, you're healthy. If you're too hurt to play, you're too hurt to play. If you're hurt but playing, you're somewhere in the middle. He's just going to be somewhere in the middle the entire season, right? That was the way the knee was at first. Then against Texas State, he took a knee to the quad and like a quad contusion kind of thing and missed the rest of the game. Was up like walking around or whatever, but very gingerly so. It looked like he was hurting, right? Looked like he was hurting. And knees, quads, frankly, calves as well. Like, it all gets connected, right? The way that you're running and jumping, exploding and bouncing and all those things in basketball. And so the stress and pressure, that's all very, very serious, especially for a big guy with a lot of size and weight and a lot of person on top of that leg. The 6th would be a little over 2 weeks after the quad contusion, right? I wonder if they sit him again against West Virginia, because they knew they could beat Penn without him, clearly. They went out the game plan that was effective and worked. West Virginia is a conference game. It matters. I don't mean to say it doesn't matter. They all matter. But as far as the conference goes, West Virginia's KenPom 125th, right? Houston's KenPom first. That's where they rank in the analytical measures that are KenPom. For what it's worth, Penn was a little bit behind that in the 150s or something, right? Before Houston played them. It's a home game. It's a home game. You think you have home energy, home crowds, and you know that Tugler feeds off of that. You saw your game plan with Tugler and Francis and some Damian Dunn, some Ramon Walker playing that small ball 4 kind of stuff. You saw that work very effectively against Penn. You also know that you have a really, really tough contest on Tuesday night, the 9th, at Iowa State, and then you flip around and have another road game on Saturday the 13th at TCU. It's a pair of games that you're going to need Roberts at. You're going to need him as healthy as you can have him, and for what it's worth, they're going to be much more challenging opponents than West Virginia. Now, West Virginia is not a slouch. They've got a big man, Jesse Edwards, who's 6'11", right? They start a 6'7" guy as well, I believe. Like, they're talented. They're big, they're long. It'd be great to have Roberts. I wonder, though, after seeing the effectiveness of the Tugler minutes, after seeing how well you could play without him, and knowing that the Big 12 season is a marathon and a gauntlet, it is not a sprint. Is it worth pushing your luck and not suiting him up for West Virginia on Saturday? I'm proposing the question. I don't know that that's what I do know that that's not what he would want to do. Juan wants to play. That's what all the players want to play. That's why we have athletic training staffs, is to make sure that you don't like put them out there when they're putting themselves in danger. He wants to play. I know he does, right? But I wonder if, in the big picture of things, if the staff is mulling over, can they get this one without him? It might not be as sexy style points as it would be with him. Can they get this one without him and have him healthier after, right? Got to balance pros and cons there. And I don't know the answer to knowing much more about the knee injury besides the fact he got it drained right before they went on their little break for a Christmas holiday. And, you know, he's got the contusion from the 21st. They got to all the way to Tuesday the 9th without meeting him. Tuesday the 9th being after the West Virginia game when they go to the road to Iowa State. They got away there. You're almost at 3 weeks post-injury. That's a whole lot different deal than like 2.5 weeks or 2-ish weeks post-injury, right? I don't know why the extra couple of days of rest matter that much, but they really do. I think I would do it. I think I would sit him. I'm not sure that that's what he wants, and I know that that's probably why Kelvin Sampson is the coach he is, and I'm not. I would be looking into it, though. I'd be thinking about it. I'd be talking to my staff about it. We'll see what Juan does on Saturday. Again, I know he wants to play. It's, you know, his first time in the Big 12 as well. I know Samson wants to win every one of these games. They all matter. And I don't mean to say that they don't. I just wonder if you can get this one without him. And I wonder if in the big picture, it might be worth trying out. Now, I did say that the third segment was going to have some football talk. So as we shift gears a little bit, bear with me. But Houston has a pair of important guys coming through campus in the coming days, weeks from the transfer portal. Now, we know Houston's new head football coach, Willie Fritz, coming over from Tulane, is trying to rapidly rebuild the program. And we've detailed how great a job he did in just a couple weeks between his hiring and signing day, officially kicking off the signing period here that we're in the middle of for the 2024 class. He pulled in 25 total new student athletes, kids from the Houston area, transferred, high school kids, all the lot, right? Did all of it very, very well. He's also built a very good staff so far. We've been keeping track of here at Locked On Coogs each and every day. And I feel like we're all very comfortable with the kinds of decisions he's making. It came out on Tuesday that 2 different student athletes are currently looking at visiting Houston in the near future that are sitting in the transfer portal. One is Cedric Melton. Cedric Melton is a big offensive lineman, 6'5", 300 pounds. Looks like he's got 2 years of eligibility left, if I'm reading things right online. Originally from Klein Kane High School. He had 3 starts as a redshirt freshman at Ole Miss. And then in the last 2 seasons, he's played less than 50 snaps combined. He's very much been a reserve offensive lineman there. I went back and tried to watch one of those games that he actually got to play in as a redshirt freshman. Again, he's about 6'5", 300, and he's very athletic for a guard, a good pass blocking, good feet and hands for that. I was impressed. I was surprised to see that he didn't play more of that. And then you see the run blocking stuff. He's not the road grader type guard you think of him. You think of like big, strong, heavy-handed guards and stuff like that. That's not really Cedric Melton's game that he's put on tape so far. I'm not saying he'll never do it. I don't mean to say anything like that ever. Obviously, he's a kid playing football still. But his tape is much more the pass blocking aesthetic. And I wonder what things will look like if he's frankly trying to prove that he can learn how to do the other. I mean, 6'5", 300 pounds. He has the frame if he wanted to play after college to keep playing. Is he looking to go to a program to help develop that part of his game? We know Amanya Gavi and Willie Fritz did that very well at Tulane. Can he do it here? We'll see, right? I also think it's interesting that he played a lot of guard while at Ole Miss. 6'5", 300 pounds, kind of longer arms. I wonder if he can turn into a right tackle, maybe kind of, sort of, or, a guard's a guard. So we'll see there. I do think it's good, though, that the kid is from Houston, looking to come back to Houston. Again, he was Ole Miss, SEC offered at high school. Clearly, talent is there. And again, I think he's a very good pass blocker. I'll just be to see how he meshes with the Houston Cougar system, Houston Cougar program, if that's the decision he makes. He looks like he's coming to campus very soon. The other name, I was about to say bigger name, and I think it's probably a bigger name because he's a different position. He's a quarterback coming to campus. Zeon Chris. Zeon Chris is a 6'2", 210-pound quarterback from the state of Louisiana visiting U of H. And he had a transfer portal offer to Tulane as well. And I think it's a bigger name, not because of where he's come from. He's come from the University of Louisiana, formerly Louisiana Lafayette. And I think there's a lot of people that would say oh man, this guy, he's a running quarterback there. And what does that mean he's going to play here? Or is it, you always hear shorter running quarterbacks get stereotyped and put into, well, he has to change positions. And I don't know if that's the case in looking at Zeon. He's very shifty, though. He's a running quarterback, and frankly, he's a run-first quarterback. If I had to put a timer on he's a 4.4, maybe even a 4.5 guy, but I could see him being a 4.4 flat kind of guy. And very, very shifty. I was interested in watching his runs and some of the stuff I could find online from him at Louisiana, that he runs, let's say he runs a 4.5. He runs a 4.5 in the open field, and his in and out of cut speed doesn't seem to change. He's not slowing down to break off defenders in the open field like you see a lot of very fast guys have to do to chop their feet down, right? He's not doing that kind of stuff as much. As a quarterback, there's a whole lot of limited stuff on him passing the football. Now, that's not to say that he can't pass the football. He had, was it 66% completion percentage while at Louisiana, threw 11 touchdowns, just 5 interceptions, a little bit better than 2-to-1 ratio there. 1,200 yards passing and all that kind of stuff, right? Like he can throw the football. I'll be interested to see him develop as a pass thrower at the University of Houston. But he comes in immediately able to run the football. And frankly, he's got several years, I believe it's 3 years of eligibility left. Almost immediately have to put a package in for him to be like a wildcat kind of guy, and at least make other teams game plan for him, right? He's that kind of elusive as a runner. I wonder if it's a long play kind of thing. Like, Donovan's back for next year. He is not in transfer portal. He's not going pro. He hasn't seen that kind of stuff yet, right? So, Donovan's back for next year. And is it like kind of a bridge year between Donovan and Zeon Chris? We know we just lost JT Kitna, the 2025 commit, which might have been the previous bridging of the gap of sorts. The next great quarterback to come through Houston is next year, the year that you kind of teach Zeon the offense Houston's going to run and kind of where his reads will be and develop him as a passer to get 2 great years of dual threat out of him. And then in the meantime, you kind of have his run packages because Donovan is a very different runner. He's a big, strong, sturdy runner you over type runner. And so you kind of have all the different options here with your different quarterbacks. I don't know. I do know that he's the kind of athlete, though, that if he's interested in Houston, you need to go get and sign. He's got that electric stuff about him. And I know I've got a lot of fans that probably don't watch a whole lot of Sunbelt football, but trust me, you're not going to regret watching this kid play in Houston Cougar red and white. You're just not. He's very, very electric, very, very fun, and a ton of fun to watch come to Houston if that's where he chooses. It looks like he's visiting in the very near future. Could see a commitment very soon if that's what he decides to do. Now, with both of these guys, I think it's worth pointing out that they only recently decided they're coming to visit Houston. Chris turned down visits he initially had to Central Florida and others to now come visit Houston. Cedric Melton, again, originally from the city of Houston, so I guess he's seeing the school. He doesn't need to see the city, obviously, but he needs to come see the school and kind of meet the staff and the guys. That is very recent development as well. So I think that's a good sign because, frankly, that means that they've gotten worked by Willie in the last handful of days. And I think that's a good thing. I think that means they're into the idea or into the direction the program is heading. Now, if you think I'm wrong, if you disagree, if you think that I spent way too much time talking about basketball or that I should have just done a full basketball episode because this one's kind of split and that's a little awkward sometimes, tell me in the comments down below like you do each and every day here at Locked On Coogs. Or you can find me on social media at Painsworth512, PAINSWORTH512 on all of your favorite social media handles. That's Twitter /X, Blue Sky, Instagram, etc. All of the different spots to find things on social media. Thank you all so much for tuning into Locked On Coogs today. We've got more West Virginia basketball game preview content the entire week as we get ready for the Big 12 this weekend. So make sure you hit subscribe wherever you get your podcast for more on Houston Cougars each and every day. Locked On Coogs, primary Locked On podcast. That means your team, our Cougs, every day. Go Cougs.